Am I making this video mostly because I have a young child at home and I'm constantly hearing miscellaneous ABC songs? Yeah, probably. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be trying something out here. So let me know if you're curious enough to see more of this here. But I was thinking about apparently the ABCs, having them on the brain. Like I said, I hear different variations of that, and we have so many different books about the ABCs and that type of thing as well, because I have a just over 1-year-old at home. And so I was thinking I did do something a while back which was really fun, like the ABCs of specifically like just books that I have, trying to find them. And in Discord, we've been doing question of the day, like, what's your favorite book that starts with this letter? And so I might do a video about that here too. This, though, is something a little bit different because this is the alphabet TBR. And I was going to do, like, we'll look at how many books do I own that are A, B, or C that I haven't yet read. But there ended up being quite a lot of A's alone. So this video is just going to be A. We're going to talk about the A books that I have and go through there. And I feel like these are kind of fun to do, to look at what I have. And there are a lot of A books. And I'm thinking, I'm like, is that the whole thing, like, the phone book thing where you're like, hey, if you start with A, it's the first person some people see. I've heard like authors talk about that with like an A last name, or like bands talk about that with starting with an A, like it's all about where you're placed. So I do wonder, because I have a lot of A books that I've not read, even more if you count the ones I have. But let's talk about the A books on the TBR. So first of all, we have one where I was looking at my list and I'm like, do I even still have this book? And I do. This is this copy with no dust jacket of Araphel's Saga by C.J. Sherry. That's an author that I meant to read for a really long time and still haven't gotten to, but this is The Dreamstone and The Tree of Swords and Jewels. And so this is more of like a fantasy one. I know she's written a lot of sci-fi as well. I randomly came across this and for some reason was just drawn to it, despite the fact that it literally doesn't even have a jacket on it. And still not read it, but as an author I'm very curious about and would really like to read. So a good reminder that I still need to read some. So I feel like talking about like the blurb or what it's about, or at least something, would probably be good, but I don't know, because I have no back of the book or anything in the flap here. So we're going to read the first sentence, since that was a theme, and we're going to do that as our draw here. So we have Chapter 1 is Of Fish and Fire, and the first sentence is, things there are in the world which have never loved men, which have been in the world far longer than humankind, so that once when men were newer on the earth, and the woods were greater, there had been places a man might walk, where he might feel the age of the world on his shoulders. That's a really great first line. So immediately I find myself wanting to read this now. So that's fun. That's not even what we're doing here specifically, but I mean, this is sort of shaming myself into finally reading this book. So hey, I'll take it. Now I'll note here that I figure for this, especially if it's a series, dropping the makes a lot of sense, but I did grab all of the books that start with A something as A books. However, I have a ton before we even get to there, so we'll talk about those and whether or not they should count, but there's still plenty that just legitimately start with an A also. So next up we have Aching God by Mike Shell. So I recently also did this in that first line video as well, where I was reading through here, and this does seem really interesting, and it's been on my TBR for forever and I never seem to get to it. But we have, the days of adventure are past for Arik Monteo. Retired to the countryside and isolated with his scars and riches, he no longer delves into forbidden ruins seeking dark wisdom and treasure. But just as old nightmares begin plaguing his sleep, he receives an urgent summons back to that old life. So it sounds interesting with exploring forbidden ruins, seeking stuff. Reminds me a little bit of The Haunt on the Island of Esmer, which I read recently, which kind of had a similar vibe where they're going in there too as well. But one I definitely still need to get to. And after the first line, I thought was really interesting as well. So we'll have to go there. Then we have Asunder by Kirsten Hall, which is a more recent pickup for me. I've read a couple of her shorter works that I've quite enjoyed, but I have this and another one of her novels somewhere, but I've not read them yet here. But we have We Choose Our Own Gods here. Karis Eska is a death speaker locked into an irrevocable compact with Sebaster, a terrifying eldritch being, three-faced, hundred-winged, unforgiving, who has granted her the ability to communicate with the newly departed. She pays the rent by using her abilities to investigate suspicious deaths around the troubled city she calls home. When a job goes sideways and connects her to a dying stranger with some very dangerous secrets, her entire world is upended. So that sounds like kind of a fun premise. I actually didn't really know what that one was about. I just picked it up because it's an author I'm interested to try more. But doing the kind of speaking to the dead, that's a trope that's been interesting. And I know it's Kirsten Holt, so it's going to be weird. She just writes some weird stuff in a really interesting way, so that should be interesting. Next up, we have Aspects by John Ford, and I think this is fantasy, but I think this author does some like sort more historical fiction type fantasy type of thing. But I mean, this has a blurb on it that says John M. Ford is the best writer in America, bar none, by Robert Jordan, which I think is why I picked this up. So that's pretty a pretty high praise. I have another one of his books, I think, as well. So here we have what doesn't look like the greatest blurb, but I guess this is the last book this author wrote before his death. He's a very celebrated author. Still haven't read any of his stuff, but it says, in the years before his unexpected death, John M. Ford wrote a novel of fantasy and magic unlike any other. Politics and abdicated kings, swords and sorcerers, machine guns, divination and ancient empires. Finally, Aspects is here. So I'm wondering if this was published posthumously? Maybe it was. I don't know. But anyway, high praise for an author. So it's an author that's apparently supposed to be one of the best, and I have not read any of his stuff. The Dragon Waiting, I think, is this other one. So I will be curious to give that one a try at some point as well. Then we have Among Thieves by M.J. Kuhn, which I've had for a long time as well here. Also, and I think I tried the first chapter of this one time, possibly, but I have not actually read it. It says that the blue, the black type covers. I know Andrew is always a big fan of the blue and the black, but this is, in just over a year's time, Raya Cotella has already earned herself a reputation as the quickest, deadliest blade in the dockside city of Kerouac, not to mention the sharpest tongue. But Raya Cotella is not her real name. For the past 6 years, a deadly secret has kept her in hiding, running from town to town, doing whatever it takes to stay one step ahead of the formidable guildmaster, the sovereign ruler of the 5 kingdoms of Thamor. No matter how far or how fast she travels, his servants never fail to track her down, but even the most powerful of men can be defeated. So, seems like it's like gonna be like a sort of thieving, dark type of thing there. I mean, it's called Among Thieves, so obviously, but yeah, that's one. It's kind of short too, so it's another one I really should start, but we have that one as well. Then we have, this thing is massive, absolutely not short, but this is the Ambergris collection. It's called Ambergris, as a big A on it, so you got to have this book when you're doing the A books. But this is City of Saints and Madmen, Shriek, and Afterward, and Finch. And this is like Jeff Vandermeer, the author who wrote The Southern Reach and all of that. And this is supposed to be super weird, and he ended up like expanding these, adding more. And I have to be in the mood for Vandermeer because he writes weird stuff. So let's read this. This is, I think he wrote this before all the Area X stuff, but let's read this one. So again, this is really just being like, hey, you know that guy who wrote Area X, which was really popular? He wrote this before, and you should read it. And there's not like a ton in here as well. It's more of a description, but well, fine, we'll read it. More than 20 years ago, Jeff Vandermeer introduced the world to the fictional city of Ambergris, a beautiful and sinister, sprawling metropolis populated by artists and thieves, composers and murderers, geniuses and madmen. Ambergris bristles with the intellectual fervor and religious rivalries. It thrives on cultural upheaval, and its politics are never short on intrigue, conspiracy, and even terror. There are stories within stories, mystery, mayhem, and a dark history that threatens to consume the city itself, as the Grey Caps, the mysterious and deadly mushroom people who once ruled Ambergris, and have been since driven underground, now threaten to rise again. So, who knows what to expect. Vandermeer writes the weirdest stuff ever, and so it's just, if you're in the mood for something super weird and random, always good to check out. And then the last of the true A's, the not A something, we have All the Seas of the World by Guy Gabriel Kay, which I will eventually read, because I'm going to read all the Guy Gabriel Kay novels. I don't think this is supposed to be one of the like better ones, but this is I think this is like a follow-up to A Brightness Long Ago or something, I think, if I'm recalling correctly. And I will, of course, get to it. But then we get to all of the A's, which includes Brightness Long Ago, we'll get to. But so the ones where it either starts with a the or drops an A. So I do also have The Arabian Nights. The A is the big thing it's focusing on here as well. I have not read this. And this is like, this has this what Aladdin was based off of. And there's lots of other stuff going in here as well here, too. And so never actually read this, and it's just one of those classics that I have that I'm curious to try at some point. So we'll definitely get there. And then we get to the all A somethings. So first of all, we have, which I I really need to read this series, but A Man Betrayed. This is the sequel to The Baker's Boy, so we'll see that for B maybe, by J.V. Jones, and it's the Book of Worlds trilogy. And I've meant to read this author, this series forever. I've had these old beat-up mass market paperbacks for a really long time. For some reason, I just have not gotten to them, but I really need to. J.V. Jones is one of the authors I'm very, very curious on, especially the things I've heard, the time period she's writing in tends to be a winner for me. We have A Fool's Hope, which is book 2 of this series, which is The Last War. I was blanking, by Mike Shackle. And I've had these copies for a while too. And I know Andrew enjoyed this series and would probably be disappointed in me for not reading it quite yet, but we will get there as well. I'm realizing I probably should have grabbed the first books so I could read blurbs from them, but we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. We have A Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martin. Now, I distinctly remember reading the first chapter of this one for a first chapter video a while ago. And it seems like this is going to be like super kind of political sci-fi and that type of thing as well. And so it seemed interesting, but not. I think I'm going to have to be in the mood for this one to try. But we have Ambassador Mahit Desmarais travels to the capital of the interstellar Texakalani Empire, eager to take up her new post. She arrives only to discover that her predecessor has died, and no one will admit that his death wasn't accidental, or that Mahit might be next. Now Mahit must discover who is behind the murder, rescue herself, and save her small but fiercely independent mining station from the Texacalan's unceasing expansion, all while navigating an alien culture that is all too seductive, engaging in intrigues of her own, and hiding a deadly technological secret, one that might spell the end of her station and her way of life, or rescue it from annihilation. So, seems like it's going to be kind of a slower, more political type of thing, which seems like something I might enjoy. That's why I've kept it for so long, even after doing that one, but have not gotten around to it yet. A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel Kay, which is, I've been saying for a while, it's going to be the next Guy Gavriel Kay I read. I ended up doing Written on the Dark, but I do plan to get to this. This is in the same world as Lions of Al-Rasan, I believe. So all the seas in the world. So maybe they're, I don't know. Those ones might not be connected. I can't remember. I think they're all somewhat connected. But this one is Renaissance Italy, is what this one is looking at. And so I'm just excited. I love Guy Gavriel Kay. I feel like most people are at least somewhat familiar, but I'm going to be hopefully reading this one very soon. So we have, in a chamber overlooking the nighttime waterways of a maritime city, a man looks back on his youth and the people who shaped his life. Daniel Serra's intelligence won him entry to a renowned school, even though he was only the son of a tailor. He took service at the court of a ruling count and soon learned why that man was known as the Beast. Daniel's fate changed the moment he saw and recognized Adria Rapoli as she entered the Beast's chamber one autumn night, intending to kill. Born to power, Adria had chosen instead a life of comfort, one of danger and freedom, which is how she encountered Daniel in a perilous time and place. So kind of like memoir-y, so going to be a little bit different, but I'm really, really excited to get to that because K-books have just always been really good. A Touch of Light by Thiago Abdallah, also one that I have meant to get to for so long. I feel bad because Thiago's a really great guy and I still haven't read this book. But I like the blurb of this because this is short but really gives you the point. How far would you go to resurrect someone you love? How long could you run from your past? Would you change who you are to show you belong? So gives you a nice feel. I know this is dealing with like grief and guilt and everything, and just still a beautiful cover as well. Why that's always stood out. So still one I really need to get to. And then A Cavern of Black Ice by J.V. Jones, which is the first book in Sword of Shadows, which is technically the follow-up to Book of Words, the other series that I talked about. Although I think you can read them independently, and this is supposed to be the better one, but I like reading things arbitrarily in publication order, so I probably will. But I will read the blurb for this one. In the Spire of Vanis, the Lord Commander's foundling daughter is haunted by nightmares of ice. In the Blackhail Clanhold, two brothers find their kinsmen slaughtered by swords that draw no blood. At a remote farmstead, a hardened warrior leaves his family to follow a raven's summons. And soon, in a deadly wilderness where nature and the gods have no mercy, two young fugitives must confront a millennial prophecy, as J.V. Jones takes readers on a journey deep into the stark beauty, cruel peril, and incredible magic of the known lands in the first volume of a powerful new epic. A millennial prophecy. That's funny than just me thinking about that now. But yeah, J.V. Jones, classic style fantasy, supposed to be very dark, some shocking stuff in there. So excited to get to. And then finally, wrapping up, we have the entire Seven Kennings trilogy, which is A Plague of Giants, A Blight of Blackwings, and A Curse of Krakens. This is one, too. I think I tried out way back. Before I did a lot of audio, I tried the first book on audio, and I didn't mesh with it, but I was very interested. The way this is written, it seems it's kind of like lyric and poetic with the way it's happening. But this follows some different characters. I'm not going to read all 3 bits of the blurbs. We have Talon, it says mother and warrior, Dervin, scholar and spy, and Abhi, rebel and hero. And it starts with like a storyteller telling these stories, and stylistically, this seems really interesting. So I'm really excited to get back to it. But it's yeah, this is one that I do. It's a really good reminder that I really do need to read this one, because it just seems like a really unique and interesting type of fantasy take. So another one that I definitely need to get to. So there you have it. There's my alphabet TBR for all of the books that start with A. Let me know if this was fun to look through, or if it was a miss, that's okay too. Let me know, because there's a lot more letters in the alphabet if you're not familiar with it. I'm very familiar with it, as I mentioned. So if you would like me to slowly get through the rest of the 25 and see if I end up reading any of them in the meantime, let me know. This was kind of just a fun little experiment to look through all the books that I have that start with A. So that's it for this one. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether any of these books, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.